Okay guys, so these are the Chinese style scallion pancakes that you will find in any Chinese takeout restaurant, and they're flaky but they're also chewy. But if you're looking for the ones that are kind of like puffy and like kind of more like puff pastry, definitely check out my Taiwanese scallion pancakes, and I'll put the link down there below. Alrighty, so let's get started. So this is a really easy hot water dough, okay? So you take 3 cups of all-purpose flour, and then to that I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of salt. Later on I'm going to add a little bit more in the lamination process, but you'll see that soon. So I'm just mixing it around with the chopstick first, just making sure that the salt is evenly distributed. And then next I'm going to take 1 cup of boiling water. So this boiling water is, and you know, use chopsticks because it can get pretty hot if you need it by hand, but this hot water actually denaturizes some of that protein, some of that gluten in the dough. So you're actually going to get a chewier texture when you're making the scallion pancakes, okay? So half a cup of room temperature water goes in, and so this mix, like if you used all boiling water, you're going to get something that is way too chewy, and then this mix, it's the perfect amount of chewiness and then the perfect amount of like springy kind of bread-like texture. I forgot to mention that I also added 1 tablespoon of olive oil right into this dough as well, and that'll keep it kind of nice and soft, and so later on when you roll it out, it's also going to kind of interfere a little bit with the gluten development as well. So I didn't want to dirty up the working surface, so I'm just going to knead it right into the bowl like so. So you really only do that for about like 2 to 3 minutes. You're not looking for, you know, crazy kneading like the bread dough. So you're gonna let that rest, put a towel on it, and then let it rest for about an hour. So meanwhile, you're gonna prepare kind of the inside ingredients. Basically, it's gonna be the scallions. So I like mine to be a pretty ample amount of scallions in my scallion pancakes. So you wanna probably take about 5 to 6 scallion stalks. And for the most part, you're gonna use up almost the whole thing except a little bit off of the top. Okay, so this is after an hour, and you just want to sprinkle the working surface pretty liberally with flour, and then just put that down. Don't worry about adding too much flour unless it's like way too much. So you want to just separate this ball of dough into 6, and for the most part I think that this is a pretty good size. It's very similar to what you would see at the restaurants. So you can see that I'm sprinkling it pretty liberally with flour, and the first roll you don't have to worry too much. I basically want it to be more or less a long rectangle because you'll see what we're going to be doing next. And having it be pretty thin is probably going to be desired since you are building layers for the scallion pancakes. So I've taken about, I would say like a half a cup of olive oil. I'm just gonna leave it on the side, and then using a brush, I'm going to laminate, or I'm going to create this fat layer for the scallion pancakes. So anybody who's ever made croissants before, seen croissants being made, this is kind of like that butter layer. So we're going to separate between dough, olive oil. So inside this filling, we're going to just sprinkle just about, I would say like 1 to 2 tablespoons of the scallions. Don't overfill it too much because they have a tendency to escape out. I'm also going to put in a small pinch of salt along with just a little bit of sesame. Now I like the crunch and I like the flavor, but you certainly don't have to put it in, and it's definitely a really nice touch though. Okay, so this is basically how you are going to make it. You're just gonna roll it up very much like a cigarette, and as you roll, you're creating these really thin layers. So it's gonna be a layer of dough, then it's gonna be a layer of olive oil with the scallions, and then check this out. So after you roll it, you curl it up into kind of like one big cinnamon bun. And then once you get at the end, you basically tuck the end on the bottom and then just squeeze, okay? Because it really doesn't matter. And then you flatten out with your hands, and then there you have already a nice round shape ready for you. So I'm basically gonna do the rest of the 6 so that the first one has time to rest, and then therefore after the rest it will be much easier to roll out. And then same thing, on the ends, just tuck that under and then squeeze it. Don't worry about, you know, anything too formal. So just press that down, and then once we finish up with the rest, we can start rolling the first one, and then by that time, this will have been nice and rested, and you can roll it out fairly easily. So like I was saying, sometimes as you roll, the scallions have a tendency to escape. That's okay, you can just put that right back in. So this is actually the part where you can actually freeze it. So just take some parchment paper and then put it one on top of the other and then sandwich that in between each one so you can see that's how it looks. So I would usually put it into a sheet pan and then put it into the freezer and then freeze it until it's all frozen and then stick it into a Ziploc bag, and then you're really all set and you can have, you know, a ton of scallion pancakes ready to go. But if you are going to make one now, I have probably 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil on medium high heat. I'm just frying that right now, and certainly if you are going to deep fry it, it creates a very different texture from pan frying it. And sometimes people don't like too much oil, and because there's already some olive oil in it, you don't have to put too much oil. But you can see after about, I would say like 2 minutes or so, you kind of have to keep on checking it. I should have pressed that part down a little bit more. You can actually see the colors changing. Like you can see the edges starting to become a little bit more yellow and it's a little bit more cooked, and you can always just kind of lift it up. So about 2 minutes each side, and then I flipped it around one more time, like 30 seconds each time, and I put it onto a paper towel just to drain all of the excess oil. So I just ended up slicing the scallion pancakes into 8 slices, and you can see that dipping sauce to the side. It is an amazing dipping sauce. I put that actually over on my site at East Meets Kitchen. Definitely check it out. It has some vinegar in it, some soy sauce, some garlic powder, so it is amazing. And I just wanted you guys to see how flaky and layery it is, but it is not kind of like flaky in the kind of puff pastry sense. It's definitely a chewy, each layer is chewy, but it's also flaky as well. And I just love it because like the inside is softer, but then the outside is nice and crunchy as well. So once you dip it into the dipping sauce, it is the perfect marriage. It is the perfect combination. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this recipe. It's actually pretty easy to make, and once you make it, you can make a ton for, you know, parties later or, you know, whenever you want to eat it. As usual guys, if you want to see more recipes like this, remember to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye!